The anime begins with a legend saying that when the demons wake from the depths of darkness, they will turn the world into destruction. On this day, the saint will choose 6 heroes and give them the power to save the world. And since they are always 6, they call them the Braves of the 6 Flowers. Then we go to the Kingdom of Piena, which is where the semifinals of the Magic Tournament are about to start. The announcer announced that the match would be between the Royal Guard captain, Batol Rain, and the mercenary representative known as the Red Bear, Quad Jane. He told the audience that the duel would be in front of the great king of Piena and the saint herself, and asked the competitors to fight fairly because the winner would face the champion of the previous tournament, Princess Nashatanya. But before the match started, the event was suddenly interrupted by a young man named Adlet, Mayor, who boldly declared that he was the strongest man in the world. He shocked everyone when he demanded a change in the rules so the 2 fighters would face him at the same time. When Quad Jane heard this, he ordered the guards to remove him, but when they tried to surround him, he defeated them easily, which surprised the whole audience. So Rain and Quad decided to fight him together, but Adlet dodged their attacks with total ease. Then he threw smoke bombs and used the chaos to defeat his opponents. After he finished, he apologized to everyone for inflicting a very painful poison on them. Finally, he announced his name to everyone again and declared to the saint that he was the strongest man in the world. Then he demanded to be chosen as one of the Braves of the 6 Flowers. Before he finished his words, the guards knocked him to the ground. Adlet saw that the whole crowd had turned against him, even the spectators. The scene changed to the prison. The announcer warned Adlet that he would not escape punishment because he violated the legendary tournament. Adlet was calm and slept a bit until a young woman appeared and told him she was one of his fans. She said she wanted to know more about him and asked if they could talk. Adlet agreed and told her he was born in Woro, in the land of White Lakes. When he was 10, he left everything and lived with his master, Atrospiker. He spent every hour training because his goal was to defeat the demon god. His entire fighting style was created just for this goal. Adlet then asked the young woman about what happened in the tournament. She told him they just continued the match he interrupted. She was impressed by his story, but she told him that if he wanted to be the strongest in the world, he had to defeat Nashatanya first. Since he knew that, this was exactly why he wished she had appeared when he interrupted the tournament. But since she did not appear, he was sure he was stronger than the princess, and that no one was stronger than him anywhere in the world. Adlet then asked the young woman about what happened in the tournament, so she told him they just continued the match he interrupted. When she heard his story, she was impressed, but she told him that if he wanted to be the strongest in the world, he had to defeat Nashatanya first. He knew that, and this was exactly why he wished she had appeared when he interrupted the tournament. But since she did not appear, he was sure he was stronger than the princess, and that no one was stronger than him anywhere in the world. She asked him why he believed this. He said he knew exactly as the saint knew. That was why he said he had to prove this not just to the demon god, but to the whole world. Adlet then asked her about the result of the tournament. She told him they finished the semifinals he interrupted, but in the final, Nashatanya completely destroyed her opponent. Adlet found this strange because he thought the big man was stronger than the other one. She suggested he might have lost because Adlet injured his shoulder. He regretted affecting the result. The young woman then asked him why he called himself the strongest man in the world. He answered that it was the truth, which meant he would necessarily be chosen as one of the Braves of the 6 Flowers. She asked him why he wanted to be one of them. He explained that his goal was to defeat the demon god, and that was why he attended the tournament, because he knew the story of the Saint of the Flower. The young woman said she knew the story too. A long time ago, a demon appeared on the continent and started attacking people. This demon did not just kill, but split his body to create other demons called the Fiends. The armies of the Rohan Empire were completely defeated, which led to the fall of the empire. The royal family was slaughtered, and its cities disappeared from the map. In the midst of despair, the saint appeared carrying a flower in her hand, so they called her the Saint of the Flower. After a battle that was long, she managed to drive the demon god to the far west of the continent and defeated him. But when she returned, she warned the people that the demon god was still alive and would one day wake from his sleep and turn the world into hell. She also said that when this day came, 6 heroes wielding her power would appear to defeat him. Adlet added that for candidates to be chosen, they had to prove themselves in the saints' temples. If they succeeded, the mark of the 6 flowers would appear on their bodies. When the young woman heard this, she finished the story and said that 700 years ago, the first heroes appeared. Their names were Fulmer the King, the hero Bakken the Archer, legendary Boka the Saint of Fire, Snemor the Saint of Ice, Emi the Saint of Sun, and a nameless warrior. Beside the demon god, Zoflir the Demon King also appeared, whom the heroes managed to stop for a bit, enough for his master to defeat him. 300 years later, the heroes appeared again to challenge the demon god. This time they were Mary, Hayu, Melania, Bual, Roy, and Manakam. Although some of them were killed, they they succeeded in imprisoning him. When Adlet heard this, he revealed that after the last appearance of the demon god, many monsters began to appear in the last 10 years. She told him the jewel cracked, and the crystal pointing to the demon king went dark. This meant that it was likely the demon god would rise this year. Adlet replied and said that if this was true, he would soon be chosen as one of the 6 braves. She then asked him if he knew the knight Mora and Yucha from the land of yellow fruits. He said yes. It was known he was the best archer in the world. The young woman also mentioned Fidela from the land of golden sands and Akir, the saint of ice. As she got closer to him, she said that they were all killed. She concluded that someone was trying to eliminate the potential heroes before the demon god woke up. She also told him she did not believe the fiends were the cause of their death and advised him to stay in prison until he recovered because the prisons were well guarded. He replied and said that was not clear, especially with the ease of her entry. The young woman laughed and said she had to leave before people got upset. Before she left, Adlet asked her to tell the princess that she must be one of the heroes because he was waiting for the day they could join together. His words made the young girl unable to answer him, although she promised to deliver the message. As she walked away, she thought to herself that he did not seem very smart. The next day, Adlet was told he would be imprisoned for life. They took him to a pit with human bones scattered everywhere. When he settled and started to rest, he found a weapon and an apple. Days passed, and Adlet lived easily in his cell, but boredom began to affect him, and he started thinking if he should begin planning an escape. At the same time, in the city, everyone heard a terrifying, annoying sound. One of the guards noticed that the light was coming from Gwenber, behind which were the lands where demons live. They decided that the demon god might be about to wake up. The scene changed, and we returned to Adlet, and while he lay there, he saw something strange coming towards him until he discovered that the mark of the 6 flowers appeared on his body. He was very happy and started shouting to the guards that he was chosen as one of the braves of the 6 flowers. Before the guards arrived, Princess Nashatania appeared at his cell. She introduced herself and revealed that she too was chosen. When he heard this, Adlet introduced himself and said he was the strongest man in the world. Then the princess showed part of her power and freed him from the cell immediately. Then she locked all the guards inside the cell where Adlet was. The 2 of them escaped quickly until they reached the horses the princess had prepared, and they rode away from the kingdom. Adlet told her they would first head to a hideout, then to Gwenber in the Iron Mountains, and finally to the land of demons, the place where the chosen heroes were supposed to gather. The next scene begins with Adlet and Nashatania continuing their journey. They felt a bit relieved because now it was not clear that anyone was following them. Adlet told the princess that they would soon leave Piena. Enter Fanzan and pass a fruit orchard. Nashatania was completely fascinated because she had never seen anything like this before. For fun, she took a piece of fruit from the merchant's cart and tasted it. Then she confessed to Adlet that when she was young, she thought fruit grew directly on plates. Adlet was not surprised because he understood she was a princess. After a while, Nashatania noticed a cart loaded with carrots and decided to take one and eat it raw. This time, she really surprised Adlet. Later that same day, while they were preparing to rest, the princess used her power to cut their food. Adlet was watching with interest, and his curiosity grew. When she noticed this, she decided to show off more, which made him ask aloud if this was the power of the saint. She asked him if he had met a saint before. He said yes. In fact, he knew one personally. She was a strange girl and did not like being a saint. This surprised Nashatania. The princess then asked him if he would like to have the saint's power like many people wish. Adlet replied and said he did not want to. He was already the strongest man in the world, and also saints could only be women. Nashatania laughed and said she intended to make the most of the power granted to her by the saint. It seems it favored women. Suddenly, she attacked him playfully and told him it should not be hard for him to dodge her strikes. While he was annoyed by her games, Adlet scolded her. She apologized for teasing him and confessed that because of her strange behavior, her servants were always annoyed with her, and her father rarely cared about her. Sometimes she thought if she was just a nuisance to others. Adlet was a bit tense and told her it was not a big deal. She laughed and asked him if he thought she was sad, which confused him. She reassured him that she did not get sad easily and that he did not need to worry about her. The scene changed as they traveled again. Nashatania tried to calm Adlet because he was still annoyed by her behavior. He ignored her and reminded her that they were about to face the demon god, so she had to stop playing. When she heard this, she promised it would not happen again and admitted that all this was new to her. Although she understood the importance of their mission, she said she could not stop herself from excitement. That night, while they were resting, Nashatania told Adlet about a civil war that happened in Piena 6 years ago. Adlet said he did not know anything about it because he was training in the mountains at that time. Then she sadly revealed that her father was accused of starting the war, which left him as just a ruler without power. Adlet asked if the prime minister was the one holding the real power. She confirmed it and added that after he lost her mother and older brother, she became the only person left in the royal family. Nasceu considered Adlet the first person she could talk to about her true feelings. Adlet told her he treated her as an equal because they were both heroes. Then he threw her his coat so she would not feel cold and warned her that they would have to sleep outside for a while and the ground might be hard. She replied that she was used to it. During the Civil War, her father even ordered her execution. That was before she became the Saint of Blades. She had to live as a fugitive for a long time, and the only thing she wished for was a night without fearing for her life. So she said that if sleeping on the ground now meant giving that same peace to the rest of the world, she would do it 1,000 times. He was proud of her resolve. Adlet told her to rest because she would need to wake up early. The next day, Adlet woke up to find Nasceu watching the sunrise. He joined her, and she told him that watching the dawn gave her a feeling of peace and reassurance, even with the awakening of the demon god. Adlet replied that this peace would evaporate if they lost. She put her head on his shoulder and told him they had to strive to ensure that this did not happen. In the next scene, they continued their journey. Nasceu talked about Goldov, Aurora, who left 6 months ago to search for the Brave's killer. Adlet asked her if he was the leader of the Knights of the Black Horn, and she confirmed it. She told him the last message from him said he found no trace, and since then, they had received no news about him. He suggested the killer might have reached him, but Nasceu rejected the idea and said Goldov was strong. Adlet reminded her that she defeated Goldov last year, but she explained angrily that he let her win at the last moment, which annoyed her greatly. So she made Goldov promise not to die until she could return the insult. That was why she was sure he was still alive. However, she admitted she was a bit worried because Goldov was only 16 years old. Adlet pointed out that they were both 18, so the difference was not big. Then he asked if there were any other victims of the Brave's killer. He remembered that when he was young, Ryura destroyed an enemy castle with burning lightning. However, he argued that due to her advanced age, she could not be considered a potential Brave, so he doubted the killer would target her. Nasceu admitted that was exactly why she did not know if she should report her disappearance. Adlet told her it did not matter because sooner or later they would meet the killer and have to face him. As they crossed a bridge, he said they would soon reach Gwenber, and with only 10 days left to reach the land of demons, they had to move fast. The scene changed, and while on the road, they saw people fleeing from Gwenber, which caught Nasceu's attention. Adlet warned her that they might be attacked soon because the enemy wanted to prevent the Braves from gathering. He explained that this was the cause of a Brave's death in the past, and added that his master taught him a lot about it. After a while, Adlet noticed Nasceu was distracted and asked if she was tense. She denied it, although it was clear she was actually nervous. He told her to calm down, reminded her the battle had not started yet, and asked her to smile, but she said it was impossible because her hands would not stop trembling. When she looked at Adlet, she saw him making funny faces, which made her laugh and helped her calm down. Suddenly, they saw a family fleeing from monsters. The father told Adlet that his friends and youngest son were left behind. Adlet told Nasceu to follow him because he suspected it might be a trap, yet he decided to go see for himself. When they arrived, they saw monsters attacking the villagers. Adlet thought the strongest man in the world could not leave them and jumped into battle. He used fire to eliminate a group of monsters with a little help from the princess. Then he played his flute to attract the rest and finish them off more easily. However, one monster managed to attack Nasceu, but she somehow managed to defeat it easily. Adlet praised her performance and said it did not look like her first fight. Nasceu, exhausted, admitted that it was her first real battle and that he had kept her in the background. She promised that from now on, she would be more useful. Adlet told her he relied on her. After the battle, Adlet approached the villagers to ask if anyone failed to escape. He learned there was a traveler still alone in the village, which made him go immediately to see her. But Nasceu stopped him sadly and told him that since there were only 2 of them, they could not save everyone. Although she was in pain, she said they should continue the journey. This made him think about how hard their mission was. However, he decided to return to the village to look for the traveler and left Nasceu behind. He thought that to defeat the demon god and truly be the strongest man in the world, he must also save people. At the same time, the princess tried to follow him, but monsters appeared in her path and threatened the villagers. Adlet, for his part, searched the village and found an iron ball stuck in the body of a dead monster. From the number of enemies she killed, he understood the traveler was not helpless at all. After a while, he saw her from afar and was amazed by her appearance. He saw her using her power to help some animals, but she noticed him quickly. She asked who he was, but instead of answering directly, he asked her if she liked dogs. She said yes, although she admitted she hated humans. Then she pointed her weapon at him and told him to answer her question. Adlet introduced himself and told her he was one of the braves of the 6 flowers like her. The girl said her name was Framey Speeddraw. Then she fired a warning shot and told him not to come any closer. While annoyed, Adlet stepped towards her anyway. Framey asked if if he came to kill her. He said no, exactly because they were both heroes. She said that was exactly the reason for her question. At the same time, after finishing off the monsters, Nasceu was sad when she saw her horse had died. Suddenly, she heard the sound of hooves and thought it was Adlet, but she found Goldov Aurora. Goldov apologized for arriving late and told her he came to help her because he was also chosen as one of the Braves of the Six Flowers. He promised that if necessary, he would protect her with his life. Nasceu, upset, reminded him they were colleagues and as heroes must protect each other. But Goldov insisted she was special and no one should touch her. The princess allowed him to continue treating her as he always did. Then, she asked him if he had any news about the Braves killer. Goldov said he had obtained an important clue. He knew the killer's name and appearance. Finally, he revealed that the Braves killer was a white-haired shooter named Fremy. Elsewhere, Fremy told Adlet she had heard about him before. In the Piena tournament, people called him the Cowardly Warrior. Adlet interrupted her and said that in reality, he was the strongest man in the world because someone who did anything to win was not a coward. He also added that a coward would not announce he was the strongest. He told her to lower her weapon. Fremy asked if he came with anyone. Adlet replied saying maybe Nasceu, Princess of Piena, was close to them. When she heard that, she ordered him to tell Nasceu and anyone they met that her name was Fremy Speeddraw, the Saint of Gunpowder. She warned that he would not travel with them because she intended to face the demon god alone, so she wanted them to leave her alone. Then Fremy asked Adlet if he would remember everything, she said. When the hero tried to get closer, she shot at him again while running away. Adlet was annoyed. He grabbed his horse's gear and ran after her, but no matter how fast he ran, he could not catch her. He decided to track her, but Fremy hid her tracks well and left items on the road. However, after stopping to think for a while, Adlet managed to find her, which surprised Fremy when she saw his tracking skills. After a long chase, Adlet managed to block her path. She asked why he was chasing her, and he said he did not know. She threatened to shoot if he continued. He rebuked her and reminded her that she could not defeat the demon god alone, because if the six Braves did not work with each other, they would fail. Fremy was arrogant, so she told him she would prove she could win without help from anyone. He asked her why she wanted to avoid meeting the other heroes. She replied that they would kill her when they saw her. He was confused. She said they had three choices. First, hear her reasons and then try to kill her. Second, not hear her reasons and then try to kill her. Third, turn around and leave. Adlet chose the first, so Fremy warned that if she told him her reasons, she would try to kill him. But in any case, she would face the demon god alone. She added that it was better if she did not see him again and walked away. Adlet was tired of arguing, so he threw a smoke bomb to stop her. Then he told her he would go with her because if she did not kill him now, he might just escape with her belongings. She asked for her things back, but Adlet explained to her that his master once told him something about firearms. They were useless without bullets. That was why he was keeping her bullets so she could not threaten him. He admitted he still did not understand why she wanted to go alone to the demon god, or why she believed the heroes wanted to kill her. However, he said the strongest man in the world would never leave one of his friends behind, so he decided to help her. He told her to follow him. Fremy hesitated. Even though he was walking in front of her and gave her a perfect opportunity, she could not shoot. Using a mirror, Adlet confirmed that Fremy had decided to follow him, and he was happy she did not shoot. At that time, Princess Nasceu and Goldov were fighting a new monster and managed to defeat it easily. Suddenly, another surprise monster grabbed Nasceu, and Goldov used his power to save her. Then, Goldov saw Adlet's horse arriving with a message for the princess. Goldov asked who sent it, and she told him it was Adlet Mayer. After all that, the same person tonight. But Nasceu told him to calm down, assuring him that Adlet was a trustworthy person, even if he decided to leave her now. The scene changed to the princess and Goldov as they continued their journey. Goldov said that according to Reinhawk, Adlet deceived them during the tournament and even kidnapped her. The princess replied that Adlet was a kind person and they would get along well. We returned to Adlet walking next to Fremy. He told her that even if he did not understand everything happening, he intended to protect her because she was one of them. She told him to shut up and walk because he was starting to annoy her. After a while, Adlet said his master told him firearms were invented only 30 years ago. They were inefficient, took time to fire, and were useless against monsters. But since Fremy's gun killed many, he wondered if it was a special developed weapon or because she was the saint of gunpowder. He asked her about her temple and if she had explosives. She ignored him, so he complained. Fremy told him he was arrogant and hasty. He suppressed his anger until she told him to go back to Nasceu if he was worried about her. He denied it and said right now, Fremy was the one concerning him the most. She laughed and admitted she never expected Nasceu to be chosen as a hero, so she did not expect much from this generation of Braves. Adlet told her she was wrong. Nasceu was a strong fighter. Even if her experience was less than the strongest man in the world. He also reminded her she could always rely on him. She told him he was ridiculous. After a while, suddenly, Fremi asked him for a favor. She knew there was a high probability they would try to kill each other one day. When that moment came, she wanted him to have mercy on her, even if he could cut her down with his sword. She did not want him to hesitate. He told her if she was going to ask for something, it should be to fight together. This annoyed her because she said he would not fulfill her request anyway. While they were watching the land full of monsters, Fremi told Adlet she would not die until she defeated the demon god with her own hands. Adlet said they must meet the other heroes at the isthmus connecting the peninsula to the continent. He was surprised by the strange color of the ground. Fremi explained that any human walking there would die within a day, except the 6 braves who were protected thanks to the saints' protection. Adlet saw a fortress being attacked and told Fremi he was worried about it. He suggested investigating the matter. When they arrived, they felt exhaustion from the extreme heat. Fremi warned that if she saw a hero inside, she would run. Adlet understood and returned her bullets. They reached the fortress gate. Adlet asked if there were heroes inside. The guard said other people passed 2 days ago and left. Relieved, Adlet told Fremi there was no problem, and they entered. A man named Lauren received them. Lauren explained he was in charge because the general and captains were killed. While walking among the corpses of monsters, he said they were protecting something important. When Adlet asked what that thing was, Lauren revealed that the king of Gwenber prepared a special resource to help the 6 braves. He took them to a room and explained that the king invented a way to lock the peninsula entrance once the heroes were inside. This was the phantom barrier made with magic fog and salt. This barrier would trap the monsters in the forest and prevent them from entering or leaving the dense fog. He showed them the temple from which the barrier was activated. It was well protected from monster attacks. Mara, the saint of mountains and a member of the 6 braves, would be waiting there. When everyone gathered, a signal would be sent to them to come and activate the barrier. Lauren also warned that if they were defeated before gathering, a second signal would be sent. Then any one of the 6 could go to the temple and activate the barrier. Adlet noted that if that happened, a single hero would not be able to enter the land of monsters. Lauren confirmed and showed them an exact replica of the temple altar to teach them how to activate the barrier. Adlet tried once and said it was easy, promising he would remember the steps. Finally, Lauren showed them the exit and told them how to reach the meeting point in 3 hours. On the road, Adlet thought there might be a problem if the others were there before them. Fremi told him to shut up because she was thinking. He suggested going to the others. She refused and said if they did, the others would try to kill each other, unlike the case with him, which was a special case. Adlet was moved and said they had to work together to defeat the demon god. He promised to protect her if a battle occurred. Suddenly, Fremi stopped and said she saw he was a kind person, but she wanted him to stop being kind to her because it made her want to kill him. Adlet was annoyed, but at that moment, he noticed they were being attacked and jumped to protect her. At the same moment, Nashatania screamed at Adlet, telling him to get away from Fremi. Goldoff moved to hit the blonde girl. Adlet quickly stood in front of Goldoff. He stopped him and told Fremi not to attack the princess. He also ordered Nashatania to stop. Fremi, on her part, reminded him she had warned him this battle would happen sooner or later and told him not to be surprised. Adlet was very angry, demanding to know what his companions were doing. Goldoff told him not to interfere and struck him, but Adlet replied by throwing dirt in Goldoff's eyes. Fremi seized the moment and fired her weapon, but Adlet managed to block her immediately. Adlet ordered everyone to stop, insisting that Fremi was not their enemy because she was one of the 6 braves. Nashatania listened, surprised when he showed her that Fremi also had the mark of the 6 flowers. Why did they attack her? The princess explained to him that the reason was that Fremi was actually the braves' killer. Fremi confirmed this and admitted to Adlet that she had killed several potential heroes. She even said that Goldoff and Nashatania were among her targets, although she could not say the same about him. At this moment, Nashatania called Adlet to come, but he ignored her. He asked Fremi again why she killed the potential heroes. She replied that it was to revive the demon god and ensure the chosen heroes would be weak. When Goldoff heard this, he declared it was now clear she was their enemy. But when he and Nashatania moved to attack, Adlet stopped between them. He said that no matter how strong someone was, anyone who wanted to revive the demon god could not be chosen as a brave. He was also sure that even if Fremi killed people, she did not actually want to revive the demon god. That meant she must have had a reason to fight, the being she herself said she wanted to bring back. Fremi admitted this was true. Adlet shouted and told them to believe her because her desire to defeat their enemy was real. He admitted he knew she was their their enemy at first, but now she was on their side, and if they did not give up, he would fight them. Goldov prepared to fight, but Nashitania stopped him and said she would listen to Adlet. If he insisted, she had no choice but to follow him, and she asked Goldov to do the same. Adlet breathed a sigh of relief, although the princess warned him to be careful because he was sometimes very naive. Then he asked Fremi to lower her weapon, assuring her that now no one could kill her. Nashitania approached Fremi and said she did not trust her, but she decided to trust Adlet's judgment. Fremi replied that if she trusted Adlet, then she was also naive like him. This annoyed Goldov, but he chose not to respond. After a while, Adlet asked about horses for the journey, but Nashitania told them they lost them during the battles. He asked if they spoke to Lauren. She told him yes, nearby. Adlet told them Mora was waiting for them and suggested going to her quickly. While walking in the forest, they noticed a strange flock of birds. Adlet approached to look better and found they were actually flying monsters, approaching fast. Soon bombs began to rain from the sky, coming from the monsters. Adlet screamed and gave them directions to reach the Phantom Barrier Temple, urging them to hurry. When they saw the bombs, Nashitania asked Fremi if this was her work, since she was the saint of gunpowder. Fremi said she knew nothing about the matter. The group was attacked by monsters trying to stop them. The princess ordered Goldov to finish them off. Although he managed to defeat many that gathered around him, he decided to fight seriously. The rest of the group joined to finish off the enemies quickly. However, due to the large number, Nashitania told Adlet to run to the temple and they would deal with the monsters. Adlet ran quickly to the temple. When he arrived, he found it intact, which seemed strange to him. While he was looking around, he found an injured woman. She advised him to hurry and go inside because time was running out. Adlet followed her advice, but when he tried to open the doors, they were locked. He used bombs to blow them up, but when he entered, the temple guards appeared. After defeating them, he discovered the injured woman was actually a monster in disguise and was now fleeing into the forest. While watching her escape, a strange fog covered the place. Suddenly, as he entered the temple, he saw the altar from which the barrier was activated, but it was already working. He wondered who activated it. At that moment, Nashitania arrived with the other heroes and demanded to know why he activated the barrier. Adlet insisted it was not him, but the one who activated it was already gone. Goldov suggested stopping it, but when they tried, the fog did not disappear. Adlet asked for a sword and said he once saw the last saint of salt, Monokam, stop a similar barrier, but when they tried the same method, it did not work. Nashitania, worried that they might not be able to get out, and feeling annoyed, tried to break the barrier, but this failed too. She lost her temper and swore to take control by force until Fremi stopped her and told her she was wasting her energy. The princess apologized to the group. Suddenly, a strange little girl approached and asked why there was all this noise. She was surprised to see Goldov and the princess, but when she noticed Adlet, she asked who he was. Adlet, with the same curiosity, asked who she was. The girl said she was Shamot Rosso, the saint of swamps. When Adlet heard this, he introduced himself as the strongest man in the world. Shamot, amused, asked if he meant her. He pointed to her and said he knew she was very strong, perhaps the strongest in history after the Saint of the Flower. But she was wrong, because she said he must be an idiot, which surprised Adlet. Then she announced they had to kill Fremi now, before she did anything. Nashitania stopped her, and Adlet explained that Fremi was one of them. Shamot was surprised, because she knew Fremi was the Brave's killer. At that moment, Mora Chester appeared and was upset with Shamot for focusing on herself when she saw Fremi on the defensive. After things calmed down, Mora said she felt there was an extra person among them. Then she introduced Hans Humpty, another member of the Six Braves, which shocked everyone. Feeling tense, Adlet asked everyone to show their marks. When they did, he confirmed that they were all real. Mora explained that the Saint of the Flower divided her power into 6 parts for each hero, so you would never find fewer than 6 heroes, and there could not be 7. The group thought about reasons why. The Saint might change her mind, but Mora insisted that was impossible. Hans concluded that the answer was clear. One of them was an imposter. This alarmed the whole group. After thinking, Adlet agreed that this was the most logical conclusion. There was an enemy among them. Adlet got worried and told the others there must be a way the imposter activated the barrier. Suddenly, he suggested maybe a tunnel was dug under the hall. They lifted the stones and activated the barrier from below. When he entered and opened the door, the imposter could escape and cover the tunnel. Then Hans said this meant the criminal had to be very fast. Adlet suggested it might be a saint, but Mora replied that no one could do that. She explained that the seal affected the whole building and was built in a way to prevent any damage from hiding. Even if someone broke the wall, roof, or floor, the seal would be destroyed permanently. However, Adlet insisted. The door opened after he entered, but Mora said that was impossible. The mantra on on the barrier attacked anyone entering illegally. If someone entered before him, the barrier would not have attacked him. Adlet suggested it might be a saint who entered another way, but Mora said those saints would not be able to restore the seal. Then he suggested it might be a saint raised by monsters like Fremi. Fremi intervened and said there was no one like her. A normal monster could not tolerate a human child. Making someone like her took a long time, so she was unique. The heroes prepared to finish Adlet, but Mora stopped them and said it was too early to judge him. Nasceu said she did not believe he was the enemy, but Hans reminded her that no one reached the temple before Adlet. If that was true, he said he could not understand how the barrier was activated, so he advised Adlet to prove his innocence. Fremi intervened, noticing that everyone was shifting their positions quickly. The princess, worried, asked Fremi if she did not want to help him, but Fremi said she was not interested in saving Adlet even if he protected her before. He suggested another theory. The criminal opened the door, went inside, removed the whole door, and then made a second door to lock the temple again. This way, they could hide inside. Goldov asked if he meant the Saint of Seals was working with the demon god. Adlet said this could be a possibility, but Hans laughed and reminded him that the temple was built by the previous Saint of Seals. Adlet insisted it must be her who was the traitor, but Hans explained she died 4 years ago, which made that impossible. Quickly, Adlet accused Hans of being the seventh brave because everything he did was a lie. Mora corrected him and told him Hans did not lie at all. Feeling cornered, Adlet said he was tricked. Mora suggested they listen to everyone's opinion first, although it was clear Adlet did not like the idea. Hans spoke first and said he believed Adlet was guilty and suggested killing him. The princess objected and asked Goldov why he did not even try to defend him. At the same time, Shamo told Mora she was more interested in killing Fremi because she did not understand what happened exactly. However, she admitted she would not mind torturing Adlet. Mora said she agreed with Hans, but that was not enough to kill him. Fremi abstained from judging and told them to do whatever they wanted with him. Mora then went to Goldov to know his opinion. Before he answered, the princess tried to convince him that Adlet was not the enemy. Suddenly, Goldov attacked Adlet without hesitation. Hans attacked too, and Adlet had to use one of his bombs. Adlet grabbed Fremi as a hostage and injected her with a sleeping poison, warning that the next dose would be fatal. Mora told him he dug his grave himself. Hans swore he would not let him escape. Shamo offered to take him, but Mora stopped her because her power would also kill Fremi. She asked Hans how he would let him pass. When he saw his resolve, Hans moved away. Adlet seized the opportunity and fled. Before he got far, Hans wounded his back, but Adlet kept running. The others ran after him until they stopped when they saw he scattered nails on the ground. Elsewhere, Adlet was regretful that now no one would believe him. While trying to escape with Fremi in his arms, due to his wound in the end, he fell and tried to pull the dagger stuck in his back. He knew the poison he gave Fremi would wear off soon. Suddenly, he began to lose consciousness. He tried to resist, knowing if he fell asleep, it would be his end, but he could not remove the dagger. Finally, he fell asleep, annoyed because he could not prove he was truly the strongest man in the world. In the next scene, we saw Adlet with Hans asking him what happened before he reached the temple. Then, while they were scouting the area, Adlet admitted he never heard of Hans before and asked to know more about his life. Hans replied and told him it was better if he did not know the details, which surprised him. After a while, Adlet noticed they were walking in circles. They decided to try a different method to know what was happening. In the end, they agreed the barrier was indeed working. Then they went to the temple to inform the others. When they arrived, Nasceu welcomed them. Adlet told them they had to stop the barrier, but when he saw Fremi tied up, he immediately worried about her. The Saint of Gunpowder told him she did not need his pity. Ignoring that, Adlet asked Mora about her mission. Mora explained that the Book of the Saint's Word did not say how to stop the barrier. She said there were only 2 ways. The first was that the person who activated it could stop it. The second was that if this person died, the barrier would disappear automatically. She also told them neither humans nor monsters could leave the area inside the barrier. The group discussed how the barrier was activated. After hearing Mora's explanation, Adlet concluded that one of them had to be working with the demon god. Shamo immediately announced that the culprit was Fremi and said they had to kill her for the barrier to disappear. Adlet stopped her and reminded her that Fremi was one of the 6 braves. This annoyed the little girl. Mora suggested that everyone introduce themselves because there were still faces and names that were unknown, and also say what they had done so far. Adlet started speaking and told the whole story of his life. The others got bored of hearing the same talk about him being the strongest man in the world and asked him what that meant. He replied that being the strongest man in the world meant being himself. This made Hans laugh and call him an idiot. Mora intervened so someone else could speak. She volunteered, and after she finished, Mora called Goldov. Adlet thought it was impossible for someone so loyal to betray the princess. Goldov confirmed everything Adlet and Nasceu said while dragging Fremi with them. Mora said she never imagined the heroes would stand against each other. She introduced herself as the temple chief who supervised the saints and said she knew the faces and abilities of 78 of them. He asked her if she knew Fremi, but she said no, and maybe Fremi was a new saint something that had not happened in 100 years. She explained that she replaced the previous chief, Ryura, 10 years ago, and no, problems had occurred since then. She said she was hiding at the meeting point when Hans arrived. Adlet asked her how someone like her did not know about the barrier. She said she heard about it, but did not know the details and regretted not investigating more. Then she asked Shemot to introduce herself. The girl bragged and said how she became famous for her power. Adlet thought that if she was the seventh brave, they were in trouble. He interrupted her when she said she knew Fremi before. Shemot admitted she tried to defeat her but failed. Mora interrupted to allow Hans to speak. Adlet considered him the most suspicious person, especially when he admitted he was an assassin. Nashatania asked how someone like that was chosen as a brave, but Hans said the only condition was that he could defeat the demon god. He added that the world was not fair, and he even worked for high officials in his government. When he was chosen, he was near the land of demons. After he was chosen, he negotiated with his king for his wage to defeat the demon god. He hid the money and went to the land of demons, and there he met Mora. Adlet asked if the king told him about the barrier. Hans said yes, but he did not consider it important. Adlet found it strange he met Mora without knowing about the phantom barrier. Mora then warned that if she kept silent, it would harm her. But Mora then asked Fremi to introduce herself. Fremi refused. Mora warned that if she kept silent, it would harm her. But Fremi said there was nothing worse than her current situation. Then she asked Mora to remove her eye patch and remove her head covering. Everyone was shocked when they saw she had a horn. She revealed she was the daughter of a monster and a human. She explained that 20 years ago, monsters entered the human world to create a tool to fight the heroes, and this tool was her. Her father was human, but she never met him. She knew he died after. Her mother got pregnant. The monster who raised her among her people was her mother, and her allies brought many humans to the land of demons to build the Temple of the Saint of Gunpowder, and this was the source of her power. She followed orders and left the land of demons to help in the return of the demon god. She admitted she always saw herself as a loyal monster. Mora asked why she now wanted to defeat the demon god, but Fremi refused to answer. Adlet intervened and told them she said that only a human could activate the barrier, which meant it was impossible for Fremi to have done it. Hans disagreed and explained that what repelled monsters was the Saint of Salt's pillar, but Fremi managed to enter. This proved she could do things impossible for both sides. Fremi insisted she did not activate the barrier and suggested maybe Mora was not telling the whole truth. This made her a suspect, too. Adlet thought he had to be careful and not raise suspicions, and his priority was to clear Fremi's name. Shemot, after Fremi finished speaking, insisted again on killing her. Adlet tried to stop her, but Shemot smiled and said she would torture her even if for the first time. Hans intervened and said he did not believe that Fremi was the imposter. If it were her, she would have killed Adlet a long time ago to avoid this situation. He added that the imposter would have done anything possible to prevent all 7 braves from gathering. She confirmed that she was. She had many chances to kill Adlet, especially when he walked in front of her and exposed his back to her for long periods. The others asked Adlet how he could walk like that without worry. After some doubts were cleared, Mora asked what to do next. Suddenly, Nashatania felt tired, and they asked her to sit and rest. Mora told Adlet to tell them what happened when the barrier was activated. He told them about the woman who turned out to be a monster. Shemot interrupted and said she was the one who killed it. Adlet explained he used explosives to open the door. Mora said she had the key and regretted that Lauren did not expect something like this. Adlet said that after he entered, he fought the guards and believed that was the time the barrier was activated. But when he entered, there was no trace of the culprit. Hans was surprised and asked if Adlet remembered wrong, warning him it was his last chance to tell the truth. He asked if the sword was on the altar when Adlet entered. Adlet said yes. Hans explained that as an assassin, he knew the Saint of Seals made special doors. Some never open, some lock forever, and some drop bars when opened. That was why he found the door very solid and strange, and when it opened, it did not close again. This made Adlet's story unclear, because according to his words, the door was locked and the barrier activated after he pushed it. Hans concluded it was impossible for anyone to enter before Adlet, making Adlet the main suspect. At night, Mora told the others to stop the search because it was too dangerous to continue. Hans replied saying the night was his specialty, they would not catch him, and that he wanted to protect Fremi from being killed. Mora looked at him and asked to see his mark. When he showed her, she confirmed Fremi was still alive, meaning that Adlet knew her value as a hostage. Hans did not understand how she knew that. Mora explained to him that when a hero dies, the flower on his mark loses a petal. Then she told him to return to the temple, and he agreed without objection. At the same time, the others were waiting anxiously. Shemot said she lost Adlet's trail because he was very fast. Mora complained, remembering the same thing happened to them, and told everyone to be careful when they looked for him in the morning. Elsewhere, Adlet passed out, remembering his childhood training with his friend Raynor. After being defeated easily, Raynor told him to become stronger stronger to help the squad. Then Adlet complained that Raynor always wanted him to train more for the squad. His sister told him Raynor was a good boy and that Adlet needed some sword training. Adlet replied saying he preferred to go look for mushrooms in the forest because he loved cooking with them. The scene changed and showed us Adlet in a difficult state, standing in front of the man who would become his teacher to ask him for training. Atro refused and told him if he wanted to be the strongest, he must join the knights or mercenaries. Adlet was emotional and said they would not make him the strongest man in the world, and he needed to be that strong to defeat the monsters. Atro saw his resolve and asked him why he wanted to be strong. Adlet said he wanted to take back what was taken from him, but Atro told him what was lost would not return and advised him to forget the matter and live his life. This upset Adlet. He did not understand why he lived if not to be the strongest. When he saw him crying, Atro slapped him on the face, forced him to smile, and told him if he wanted to be strong, he must smile even in the hardest times. Adlet could barely breathe. He tried to smile, but it was not enough, and Atro kept hitting him. Suddenly, Adlet woke up and found that Fremi treated his wounds, which surprised him. She advised him to rest and recover his movement. He asked her why she saved him. Fremi told him she was 99% sure he was the seventh, although she was not completely sure. He laughed and said he thought she felt pity for him, and then insisted that he was a real hero and came only to face the demon god. She told him she still did not trust him. After a while, Adlet noticed Fremi was cold and tried to light a fire but could not. She easily lit the fire using her power. He asked her why she needed a weapon at all when she was that strong. Fremi told him he would not understand, then explained that the cold was because of the temple. Adlet was surprised and thought about how the salt barrier worked. She said she was able to enter the temple because of her human half, but suffered greatly because of her monster half. When she saw the pity in his eyes, she told him to keep it because she did not want it. She also said she crossed much stronger barriers to kill warriors. Adlet respected her wish and changed the subject. He asked if she was sure monsters did not activate the barrier. She said yes, and the monster that tricked him must be outside, the pillars surrounding the temple. He admitted he did not understand how someone could enter first. Fremi told him that was because he was the one who did it. Adlet asked her if she was that sure. Hans told the truth. She said she did not know much, but saw that he was right and added that Mora was with him, so she believed that no one entered before them. Resigned. Adlet suggested maybe Hans or Mora were the culprits, but Fremi said it did not matter until he proved his innocence. Adlet suggested they go back and review everything that happened with them and start ruling out some people as traitors. He ruled out Nashatania, Goldoff, and Fremi because they were together at that time, but Mora and Hans were heading to the temple. Fremi suggested maybe Chamot was involved. Adlet said he did not know because she never said where she came from and thought her power might help enter. Fremi disagreed and said her power was destructive, very destructive, and if she opened a hole in the ground, she would not be able to close it again. Adlet concluded that they were actually facing at least two enemies. One joined them in the temple, and the second entered first and activated the barrier. He believed the monsters bombed the temple to lure them, and then attacked to separate one member from the group. Fremi said if that was true, she did not understand why they needed the seventh brave, because if all they wanted was to set a trap for them, there was no need to add a second member. Adlet called her stupid and told her that without the seventh person, they would not have been able to frame him. So he was convinced that they always wanted to accuse and kill the strongest man in the world. He told Fremi to forget the seventh person and focus on the eighth person who activated the barrier. She asked him if he could find him alone. After thinking, he admitted he would need her help. Fremi refused because she still did not trust him. This made him start smiling. She was surprised, and he reminded her that. Atro taught him to laugh in the face of despair. Excited, he promised that by dawn he would prove his innocence. With a wide smile, he said that even if he did not know how yet, he would continue to smile because everything ended when you stop. Then, Fremi asked him why he wanted to be one of the six braves. When Adlet heard her words, he understood that Fremi was interested in him, and this might be the first time she showed interest in anyone. Curiously, he asked her why. She replied it was because he was just ordinary, a normal man who had a strange collection of weapons. He asked her if that meant she saw him as weak, but Fremi clarified that it was not like that, but she found it strange that a normal person managed to become that strong. A bit embarrassed, Adlet said he owed all this to his master, a man who was a bit strange and obsessed with monsters. This man chose to live in the mountains to make new weapons and smart methods to use against enemies. He trained him harshly day after day until he collapsed from fatigue and had to study like a dog tied to a desk. He also taught him to make all kinds of weapons. When Fremi heard this, she told him that this description reminded her of Atro Spiker, who was on her list. Due to his age, he was not a priority. She added that rumors said no students could endure his strictness, and they all ran away. Adlet said that was not true. He never ran away because he was determined to be a hero. Then he told her that when he was a boy, a monster appeared in their village while he was playing with his friend Raynor. While they were arguing whether to face it, or not, the monster approached and told them he came to speak with the adults. That night, Adlet could not sleep and waited for the next day. In the morning, the village elder announced that they would be taken to the land of demons to live under the protection of the demon god because the 6 braves would not succeed. This meant the human world was about to end. Adlet remembered the villagers were sad about the decision, and he believed they could still defeat the demon god, but this made compliance easier for them. They followed the monster's orders, which included ripping out the hearts of anyone who opposed them as proof of loyalty. Fremi recognized the story and asked for the monster's description. After hearing it, she told him it was one of the 3 leaders who commanded the rest, and who came up with the idea of creating a half-blood, and her mother was forced to give birth to her. Adlet was shocked and said on that day his friend died while protecting him, and his sister sacrificed her life so he would be the only one to escape. Fremi was sad and said that was exactly the monster's plan. Adlet explained that no one blamed the villagers. His friend asked him not to hate them, and his sister promised him they would live together in peace one day. Atro told him that those sacrifices were what made him stronger. Adlet believed those words and worked on becoming stronger. Fremi admitted she envied him because she had nothing to believe in. The monster who gave birth to her and raised her gave her the power of the saint, explosives, and a little bit of happiness, then abandoned her. She said she always loved all people and believed love would return to her. When she grew up, she obtained her power and killed many people without hesitation, executing her mother's orders. Because she was a half-blood, she felt she had to work harder than anyone for the demon god until she faced Shemot. She could not land a single hit. She was laughed at for her words, and in a moment of recklessness, she said her name. She barely survived and escaped. When she returned, her mother tried to kill her because she had become useless to the monsters she considered her friends. Fremi said she regretted escaping because she could not forgive them for trying to kill her. She admitted that if she were just a doll, she would not have suffered from betrayal like this, and would have remained a servant from the beginning. She went crazy at the thought that her mother was only pretending to love her, and decided to destroy everything she worked for, starting with the demon god, to make him regret and see the result of his betrayal. Adlet tried to encourage her, but she asked why he trusted her words. She saw that if he was truly who he claimed to be and not the 7th person, he should suspect her. Otherwise, he would be the suspect. He replied that he now understood why he could not do it, and why he chose to tell her his past. They shared pain, betrayal, and the loss of their homes. Also, like him, she lived for revenge. Adlet said he trusted her because he did not want to see her as an enemy. Fremi replied they were very different, and he had something to believe in. Then she said she would return to the temple because he was still the most suspicious one. Before leaving, she gave him one of her bombs that produced no light or sound, and only she could feel the explosion. Adlet took it and watched her as she walked away, promising that he would protect her and protect the rest of the braves. In the next scene, Fremi arrived at the temple and lied about what happened with Adlet, saying he escaped. Mora told her to rest and share the details in the morning. At the same time, Adlet thought he did not become strong for the sake of revenge or hatred, but to ensure he never lost anyone again. Fremi, for her part, thought that if he really wanted to protect everyone, in the end, he would die. The next day, Fremi told the rest of the braves what happened and also told her story. Shemot was still not trusting her, but Mora interrupted and said that Fremi was indeed a real hero. Hans, however, asked if they really treated her as an ally. He said they could not be sure if she really fought Adlet, who was hit by the dagger, that Hans himself threw. Fremi replied that it did not hit any vital organ, and criticized him because he was not skilled, as he claimed. Hans reminded her that Adlet was always defending her, and even stopped someone else from torturing her. He laughed and said maybe she fell in love with him. This annoyed Fremi, and she told him he was annoying. Mora asked for silence, but admitted she was curious to know Fremi's story, and asked her how she felt when she discovered Adlet was the 7th. Fremi said she expected that because he was always trying to win her trust, and when she knew the truth, everything made sense to her. Later, Goldov noticed that the priority was capturing Adlet. Then Goldov asked them how they would do that. Hans said that Adlet left most of his weapons, which meant he would not be able to fight, so he might try to retrieve them. The best solution, according to him, was to wait for him. Mora suggested they make a plan if they were going to wait, but Goldov preferred to go look for him. Mora decided they would split into pairs and started defining the groups. She ordered Hans and Shemot to stay in the temple to wait for Adlet and the others to go look for him. Shemot objected because she did not like waiting. Mora changed the arrangement and asked Fremi to stay with Hans instead of her, but Shemot objected again and said she wanted to go out and play. Thanks to Hans, the leader allowed Shemot to go with a warning not to get lost in the forest. The search party split up and went in different directions. In another scene, the princess asked Goldov if he trusted him. When he said yes, she asked him if he would accept her ideas without complaint. saint. She told him she was sure Adlet was not the seven, so she would do anything to prove that. She believed he fell into a trap and hoped to be the one to help him. Goldoff said he would not allow it, but Nasceu insisted on looking for a clue to bring them closer to the truth. In the end, she admitted she suspected Hans, and this made Goldoff speechless. At the same time, Adlet was watching Fremi and Mora from afar, and understood that the group had split into pairs. This meant that now someone was alone with the seven. Worried that this person might be killed, he ran to the temple to find the culprit and retrieve his weapons. When he arrived, he met Hans, who was waiting for him. He asked him again if he was the culprit, but Hans ignored the question. Adlet realized they were about to kill him, so to gain time and think of a way to escape, the fight started. Adlet tried to escape with a smoke bomb, but Hans blocked it easily and said he would not fall for the same trick twice. The two entered a violent duel and showed their amazing skills, but in the end, Hans won. Hans told Adlet that the plan was good to pretend to be one of the six braves, but thanks to him, it failed. Adlet tried to convince him that he was not the imposter, but Hans told him that would not work with him. Hans demanded to know who he was working for. Adlet insisted he could not say because he was not an imposter. Hans insisted that he was, and began listing potential motives for this scheme. Adlet denied all this and said he had no family, had no lover, and insisted that he was not the imposter. Suddenly, when Hans was about to kill him, he detonated a smoke bomb to escape, but he was also blinded by the explosion. This gave Hans time to recover. Adlet was shocked by Hans's ability to attack so accurately without even seeing. This made him work twice as hard to avoid the hits. Finally, when he was cornered, Adlet put all his weapons aside and challenged Hans to attack him. To Hans's surprise, he said he did not need secret weapons to fight. His power alone was enough. Hans hesitated, feeling that Adlet was planning something. At the same time, Adlet thought that defeating Hans would not be a real victory. What he needed was to prove his innocence and reveal the seven. He noticed Hans was tense and trying to guess the trick. He was hiding. He seized this moment to trigger his sword's mechanism and dismantle it. He intentionally failed, so Hans would understand he did not want to kill him because he was not the imposter. When Hans did not understand, Adlet explained to him that if he were the seven, he would have no reason to limit himself, and this was the perfect moment to finish him off even without any weapon. Hans still did not believe him, but Adlet reassured him that he would never kill a colleague. He knew he was risking a lot by trusting Hans. He was not the seven, because if he was wrong, it was over for him. Finally, Hans gave up and said he now considered Adlet a real hero. He admitted that he was smart to stay, otherwise Adlet might have convinced the others. Then, with a serious look, he told Adlet that he was the seven. Adlet ran for his weapons, but Hans was faster and cut his neck. However, Adlet discovered that he was still alive. Hans revealed it was just a trick, and that he wanted to see Adlet's real face at the moment of death. He explained that humans lie with words and even actions, but their expressions at the time of death never lie. That was why he pushed Adlet to the limit to see his honest reaction. If he was the imposter, he would not have made that expression of confusion. When Hans said he was the seven, he was shocked. He understood that Hans had seen enough death to know. In the next scene, he gathered his weapons, and Hans stepped forward to shake his hand. Now they were allies. Elsewhere, Fremi met Mora, who tried to find out information about Adlet's location after she lost his trail. Mora did not understand what he wanted and believed his plan was too precise to end here. Fremi suggested continuing the search, but Mora stopped her because she wanted to talk. When she tried to interrogate her, Fremi got annoyed and asked why they did not suspect Chamo or Hans instead of her. Mora said she did not suspect her because she considered her a real hero. Fremi agreed to answer her questions, but warned her that she did not know much. After she explained how the monsters were organized, Mora asked what she knew about the humans allied with them. Fremi said she only heard rumors about a village whose inhabitants were taken, but there was no proof, and the Bantan temple could not act. When she saw Mora blaming herself, Fremi told her it was not her fault. Mora thanked her for her kindness and admitted that the only good thing Adlet did was bring her into the group. Fremi told her not to treat her like a child and suggested continuing the search. Before she left, Mora said she knew Fremi's feelings for Adlet because he was the only one who defended her, but warned her not to show mercy if they found him. Fremi replied coldly that she actually hated him. At the same time, Goldoff and the princess reached the end of the road to the land of demons, the meeting point of the braves. They found remains of a campfire. Nasceu said this confirmed Mora and Hans's story. When she was sad, she did not find any clue. Goldoff reminded her that Adlet was the enemy. She said if he did not trust her, he could walk alone. But then she apologized for her overreaction. Goldoff asked her why. She trusted Adlet more than someone who always served her. She told him to shut up and reminded him they were in a battle to save the world and that a colleague's life was at stake. She added that she had known his feelings for her for a long time, but this was not the time to talk. She said she did not have time for his jealousy, and he apologized for losing control. Elsewhere, Adlet was searching through his weapons for anything to help him find a clue. Hans searched the upper area areas of the temple for an entrance but found nothing. He said it still seemed someone entered before Adlet, even though the seal was not supposed to be broken. Adlet insisted it was the work of one of the saints, and Hans reminded him that Mora said that was impossible. Adlet suggested maybe she did not know this ability, and the saints were hiding all their powers. Then he asked Hans who would be the suspect if he was killed. Hans said Fremi confirmed her suspicions, even though he regretted that. Then Adlet searched the altar looking for a clue, but they heard someone approaching and hid. It turned out to be just a false alarm, but Hans warned him that someone might return soon. He asked Adlet how the barrier was activated, and Adlet understood that the people who knew that were very few. He said he needed to ask Shamo something, and asked where to find her. Then he changed his mind and decided that Hans should go instead of him. At that moment, Adlet noticed something strange at the temple entrance and went to check it. Outside, Shamo met them and asked Hans why he was walking with the imposter. Hans said Adlet was not the enemy, but Shamo said she did not believe it, even though she did not care how he knew. Adlet tried to seize the moment and ask her something that might help him identify the seven. Shamo got bored of talking and said she would kill him immediately, then Fremi, then Hans. And if he was not the imposter, she would kill the princess and Goldoff, because she was sure Mora was not him. Then she released her power, which shocked the two men. Adlet was shocked when he saw that she was hiding monsters inside her. She explained that she found them in her swamp where she stored everything she ate. When they saw her seriousness, Hans suggested they escape. They ran a bit, but when it became clear they could not escape, they decided to fight the monsters but discovered they healed instantly. Adlet understood why Fremi fled from her before and scolded Shamo for attacking Hans too. She said she did not care because there was no proof he was not the imposter, and told Hans to kill Adlet so she would not have to. Hans reassured him he would not do that. Adlet told him if they were cornered, he should escape alone, but Hans refused and prepared to fight. While surrounded by monsters, Hans started cutting Shamo's monsters with great skill. When he saw his persistence, Adlet decided to do the same, but neither of them could make real progress. Adlet suggested they go for Shamo at the same time, but they were unable to get close because she was well protected by her monsters. Shamo was watching their struggle and mocking them, saying everyone tries, using the same method to no avail. Adlet changed his tactics and asked Hans to cover him. Hans replied angrily and told him to stop being lazy because he was busy with his own problems. Adlet insisted he just needed a moment to think of a plan. They gathered again, and Hans said he could stop the attacks for 60 seconds. Adlet told him that when the time was up, he should go his own way and he would cover him. While Hans stopped the attacks, Adlet finished his plan quickly. He decided to use poison and then tried to burn them to see if it would work. Hans called out that the 60 seconds were over. Adlet played his flute to attract the monsters and buy time, which put Hans in a good position. When Shamo saw this, she called them idiots and summoned new monsters. Adlet told Hans not to evade them, but to protect himself. This gave them a chance to strike Shamo. This blow gave Hans a chance to attack her. Shamo retrieved her monsters inside her while she was restrained. The two took her back to the temple and told her they did not see her as the seven. Then Adlet asked her if she knew about the barrier before joining them for the first time. Shamo said no, and this answer removed some of his doubts. Elsewhere, Fremi and Mora returned to the temple after hearing the sounds of Shamo fighting. Mora was tense when the sound stopped, but Fremi reassured her that no one could defeat Shamo. At the same time, Adlet and Hans left Shamo in the temple and went to the forest. On the way, Hans told Adlet that Fremi was still his main suspect. Adlet disagreed and said she was not the imposter, but Hans warned him that getting close to her was dangerous. He explained that Fremi lived in darkness, loved no one, trusted no one, and saw everyone around her as an enemy or someone who would become an enemy. Adlet looked at him, and Hans added that he also lived in darkness, but Fremi's darkness was much deeper because of Adlet's values regarding friendship and trust. Hans said they were almost different species. Adlet agreed, but said he still wanted to talk to her. He left Shamo in Hans's care and handed him an item he hoped would help him find a clue. Then he detonated the bomb that Fremi gave him. She felt the signal while waiting. She wondered if she truly hated him because she thought they started to understand each other. Then she realized he was standing in front of her with his weapon ready. In the temple, Mora scolded Hans for letting Adlet escape. Hans asked her to calm down and said he thought he could prove Adlet's innocence because he understood the Seventh's plan. This surprised Mora. Adlet told Fremi that he discovered part of the Seventh's trap. He said they were wrong to think the barrier was activated before he opened the door, because when he entered the temple, the barrier was not yet activated. When she did not believe him, he reminded her that they knew how it was activated and asked her if she remembered who taught them. Because she did not answer, he said it was Lauren himself. This made him wonder if Lauren was working for the Seventh, because none of them knew about the barrier until he told them. Goldoff and Nashitania knew about it a day before. Mora was aware because Lauren showed her how to activate the barrier. Hans did not know because he never met Lauren, and Shamo knew it only after she joined the group. In short, they all learned from from Lauren. If he lied, there was no way for them to know. Fremy focused and told him to continue. Adlet explained that the enemy used Lauren and the monsters to lure them to the temple, waiting for their arrival before releasing the fog to make them think someone activated the barrier and escaped later. But the barrier was not yet activated. There was only fog. Although the sword was on the altar, the seventh exploited the desire of everyone to deactivate the barrier to actually activate it. Then all they did was claim that the temple was locked until Adlet arrived, thus making him the scapegoat. Fremy pointed out that Hans was the one who accused him and asked directly if he was the seventh. At the same time, the princess asked Goldov if he remembered how Hans introduced himself. When he said yes, she pointed out something strange. When Hans and Mora entered the temple, although it was only once, Hans called her princess. This meant he always knew her identity but then pretended otherwise. She did not understand why, and Goldov was shocked. Elsewhere, Hans told Mora what Adlet discovered about the Seventh's plan. She said it must be a very smart person. After they freed Shemot, she reminded Hans that he was the one who accused Adlet first. Adlet said to Fremy that he thought about revealing what he knew about the locked room trick, but since Hans spoke first, he decided to let him continue. She asked if he trusted Hans. Adlet said yes, because when they fought, Hans held his life in his hands but chose to trust his word. He said this was not the important part. Now they knew that someone waited for him to enter the temple before, activating the fog. His goal now was to catch the culprit and prove his innocence. Fremy said this was a good idea, but warned him that he made a big mistake in estimating the saints. She explained that although they used saint powers, the powers had limits and differed from one saint to another. Adlet insisted there must be someone who could control the fog, and Fremy said it could be the saint who created the barrier, the Saint of Fog. Fremy explained he might have covered the forest in 15 minutes, but he could have spent years gathering the power of the fog demon in this place to release it immediately. If she knew that a fiend could do such work like that, she would be at the top of her target list. Then she threw a bomb and revealed a large number of pillars buried in the forest. These pillars contained the power of the phantom barrier, and thanks to them, the fog appeared immediately. Adlet wondered if there could be a second fog barrier, but Fremy said there were no two types in the same place. If there were two, one would be canceled. That was why. She was convinced that creating all this fog at once was impossible without a barrier. At the same time, Hans tried to convince Mora that Adlet's theory was still the most logical, but she refused to listen and decided to go after Adlet. Hans threatened her to stop her. He said he was sure of Adlet's innocence and asked why she left everyone when she could have killed them. Mora said for the same reason. She appeared before them from the beginning. She just wanted to set a trap and play with their hearts so they would all fight each other. And she scolded him because he was deceived easily. The scene returned to Fremy, who told Adlet that he was cornered because his theory was destroyed. Even if he was not an imposter, he had no chance to survive. Adlet regretted he did not have her help and thought of going to the princess. But Fremy understood and warned him that he always relied on others and threatened to kill him. He smiled and told her he was used to mockery and insults. He reminded her that as he learned, everything ended when he stopped smiling, so he would not give up. Then he pointed out that if they killed him, she would be the suspect after that. As long as he was alive, no one would suspect Fremy, and that was why he asked her to trust his word. She said that was impossible because she did not understand his way of thinking. She did not understand why he laughed, why he did not give up even at death's door, or why he protected her. Finally, she said Mora might have reached the temple by now and might have convinced Hans to go look for him. However, she wanted Adlet to stay with her to know him better. At the same time, the princess told Goldov that during her journey with Adlet, she felt many emotions. She said she could not compare him to the other Braves because there was something different about him, although she did not know what exact. Then she asked Goldov to check his mark to see if Adlet was still alive. A bit embarrassed, he agreed and told her no one had died in. The next scene, Adlet was surprised when Fremy said she was trying to trust him. He tried to get closer, but she raised her weapon and threatened to kill him if he lied to her. He asked her to stop and told her he never saw them as enemies and always protected her without any hidden motives. Fremy did not believe anything and warned him not to try to deceive her. After hearing this, Adlet decided to tell her that there was a time he tried to turn himself into a tool of war just because he thought this way he could discard his heart and care only about killing the monsters that took everything from him. He thought this was the only way to become the strongest fighter in the world, but with a little shame, he admitted that this did not work because it was impossible to discard one's heart. Fremy replied telling him he was wrong and explained she was able to do it because she needed revenge. Adlet told her that was impossible because the desire to discard the heart itself came from the heart itself. That was why she would never be able to give up everything to become stronger. Besides, love was not something she could give up. She was surprised and listened as he confessed that all the time they spent together he loved her, but only understood it now. and knew his feelings had not changed since the first time he saw her. Adlet told her that when he discovered she was the Brave's killer, he decided that if no one trusted her, he would be the only person to trust her. If no one stood with her, he would be the one to do so. He said it was the same when the imposter appeared. Instead of looking for him, he focused on protecting her because he never doubted her innocence. She asked him what he loved about her, and he said he did not know. But every time she was in pain, he felt a pain that even the strongest man in the world could not bear. In the end, Fremy asked him where he would live after killing the demon god, because she would not return to the monsters, and there was no place for her among humans. She said the best solution was to die in battle. Adlet told her that when she took revenge, she must stay alive. She said that was impossible because she was a monster's daughter and the Brave's killer, but he promised her that he would make a home for her because he was the strongest man in the world. When she heard this, Fremy said she understood now, but when he tried to get close to her, she hit him, and to his surprise, she said that he was now convinced they were enemies. At the same time, the rest of the Braves heard the firing of shots and tried quickly to find the location of the fight. Before they left, Mora ordered Shamot to watch Hans and not try to attack him unless he did something. Hans complained because he knew Shamot was dangerous, but Mora ignored him. She summoned the chief's power using the mountain echo and sent a message to the others that Hans was defeated and very hurt, and that Adlet was the seventh after all. When Hans heard Mora's lie, he was very angry, especially because she ordered him killed, but Shamot said she did not hear that, and at most would leave him half dead. Mora warned her not to try. She just wanted him watched. At the same time, Fremy was running after Adlet, and he showed her his Brave's mark to prove that Hans was still alive. She noted that Mora never said he died, and told him she would not believe another word. Elsewhere, the princess, affected by Mora's message, apologized to Hans for suspecting him. Goldov suggested they leave, but suddenly the princess started behaving strangely. After she calmed down, she said this was the first time she felt real anger. She regretted trusting Adlet and releasing. Her power even scared Goldov. She laughed and asked how he would feel if she lost control and killed Adlet along with. Fremy launched a light signal into the sky so the others could find her. Adlet told her to return to the temple to reveal Mora's lie, but Fremy said it did not matter because he would remain an imposter. She kept running after him and throwing explosives to stop him. Adlet tried to convince her to believe him. This caught her off guard. She said all liars said the same words to win her heart, and she would not fall into the trap again. No one could protect her, so she had to live alone until she died. As she prepared her next attack, she said it was better not to trust anyone than to trust and be betrayed. However, Adlet kept getting closer, despite her continuous attacks, because he knew that although she decided not to trust anyone, deep down she still wanted to trust someone. Suddenly, Mora appeared and told Fremy to cover her while she finished off Adlet. The hero tried to escape, thinking everything was over, convinced that he could not do anything to Fremy. He used his gear to delay Mora a bit, when he made her look at him and stand, ready to face her blow directly. But before she hit him, Fremy intervened and said that Adlet surrendered. She understood his decision and warned that he would not get out alive. Adlet asked her if Hans was alive. She confirmed and told him that Hans was the one who hurt him. She said they would take him to force him to confess who sent him. Adlet refused and said he would prove Fremy's innocence, explaining that the plan of the imposter relied on one of the 7 Braves activating the barrier. He said he would not waste time and would go directly to the evidence. Mora told him to shut up and called him the imposter, but he pulled out a medicine his master made and asked Fremy for a bullet. He explained that this medicine revealed traces of monsters and turned red when reacting with their fluids. He said he saw the monster part of Fremy react, but when he sprayed it on the activation altar, there was no reaction. Adlet said Hans also saw that Fremy was innocent. Then he warned Mora that if she was the 7th, her plan was broken because after she killed him, she likely intended to blame and eliminate Fremy too. Mora said it was amazing he made her think he was a hero, but now she would kill him before he deceived anyone else. Adlet told Fremy that when he died, she should go straight to Hans. Before Mora struck, Fremy blocked her strike. Fremy told Adlet she hated him because she had started to trust him, and the more he spoke, the more she hated him because he trusted her when she swore she would not trust anyone again. Crying, she created a distraction so they could escape from Mora, but suddenly Nashatanya arrived with Goldov and blocked their path. The princess told Adlet she now had to kill him. Fremy heard the princess's words and told her that Hans was fine and Adlet was not her enemy, so she must not believe Mora's lies. But Mora insisted and said that Hans was hurt and Adlet was the enemy. Nashatanya then continued talking to Adlet and told him she was still waiting for him to repent before he died. Fremy told Adlet to run and warned him the princess had gone mad. He said he was going to the temple. Suddenly, Nashatanya got tired of waiting. She attacked him because of Mora's words. Fremy jumped immediately to protect Adlet and destroyed the princess's strike completely. But Nashatanya did not give up and changed her tactics and launched a second attack which failed too. Goldoff then decided to intervene and attack Fremy, but she sensed him just in time. However, Goldoff rushed again, and Adlet had to intervene to protect her. When they saw how well they fought together, Mora told the princess she would deal with Fremy, and the others should deal with Adlet. But Fremy threw several bombs and forced them to step back. She told Adlet she would stop Goldoff and Mora so he could escape, but remembering his promise, Adlet said he would protect her until the end because he was the strongest man in the world. After a moment, he tried to head to the temple, but the princess ran after him. At the same time, Goldoff and Mora attacked Fremy, not believing she could face them both. In the end, Mora landed a clean hit on her and defeated the Saint of Gunpowder. Before she fell, Fremy wished for Adlet to escape. Adlet's only goal now was to reach the temple and show the princess that Hans was fine. But when he arrived, he found neither Hans nor Shemot present, so he checked his mark to make sure they were still alive. At this moment, Nashatania arrived and continued her attacks. Adlet used smoke bombs to disappear, but the princess was still able to track him. She wounded him while running in the forest, but despite his injury, he kept running. Then Nashatania hit him hard, and he fell into a trap. She was happy with herself. Adlet, while thinking of their journey together, told her he always saw her as a colleague, and that if they worked as a team, there was no reason to fear the demon god. The princess told him to stop lying and said he betrayed her, but Adlet swore he never tried to kill or deceive any of his companions. She did not believe him and said she would not be deceived by his words. Adlet started trembling from blood loss, and when he was about to lose consciousness, he saw Nashatania striking him. With maximum effort, he blocked the strike with his hands and threw her away. Goldoff arrived at that moment, and Adlet had to run for his life. He took off his gear while running and felt sorry that he reached the point of being on the edge of death. Suddenly, Goldoff rushed with his weapon, and Adlet barely blocked him in time. But in his weak state, he could not prevent Goldoff from hitting him and sending him directly towards Mora. With a simple smile, Adlet thanked Goldoff for the help because he did not have the strength to continue running. Then, he reminded Goldoff of the time they were going to the temple and were ambushed in this same place. Goldoff asked him what he meant, but Nashatania and Mora interrupted him. They told him to kill Adlet. Goldoff suggested interrogating him first instead, but they refused. They were sure he would not speak. Suddenly, Nashatania noticed something in the distance and saw Shemot walking with Hans. This shocked her. Adlet scolded Hans because he was late and asked him where he was. Hans apologized and said they were looking for him to show him something. When he saw his comrades alive, Nashatania felt regret that she fought for nothing. She and Goldoff asked Mora why Hans was safe. Mora admitted she lied about that, but insisted that Adlet was still the imposter. At this moment, Adlet interrupted her and explained what it meant to be the strongest man in the world and asked them who else could reach this far alive. Then he announced that the time had come to defeat the seventh of the Braves. The scene changed, and Adlet started telling the whole story of how they were deceived. Mora said his theory was wrong, and the Saint of Fog needed a strong barrier to cover the whole forest. He reminded her she once said she did not know the abilities of all saints, and added that the problem was not with the saints, who did not understand, but in their ignorance of science. He explained how fog formed. Small water droplets gathered in the air. The higher the temperature was, the more water vapor increased. If the temperature dropped suddenly, the vapor turned into droplets floating in the air and created fog. Shemot said she did not understand. Adlet explained to her that due to the forest's high humidity, any sudden drop in temperature created fog immediately. Mora said this changed nothing because both the Saint of Ice and the Saint of Snow needed a huge barrier to do that. Adlet replied saying she lacked imagination. They did not need to lower the temperature. Adlet concluded that Ryura was probably kidnapped and forced to cooperate. Then he asked them if they noticed how hot the weather was when they reached this area. He was convinced that those who welcomed them into the fortress were working with the seventh and deceived everyone from the start. If someone else knew how to activate the barrier, the plan would have failed. But this was unlikely because the king kept the information very secret. Finally, he said that after they opened the temple door, the seventh ordered the monsters to kill Ryura. The temperature would drop suddenly and cover the forest with fog. From there, the seventh just needed to get close to the altar and activate the barrier. Mora replied that he had no proof and it was all conjecture, but Adlet said he had not finished. The final puzzle was where Ryura's body was hidden. He explained that despite the size of the forest, there were few places to hide a corpse. If it were buried, Shemot would have found it immediately. Then Hans said that he found the corpse. Adlet agreed and said the best place to hide a corpse was among other corpses. He asked Fremy if the monster in question was one of those she killed. She and the princess said they would remember if they saw it. Adlet ordered Hans to bring Ryura's corpse. When Hans showed it to Mora, he asked if this was really her. When she confirmed, he told everyone this proved Adlet's innocence. Mora still insisted it could be a trap by Adlet to prove his innocence. But Fremy said that if this were true, he would have shared the theory long ago and risked his life many times before. In the end, Mora admitted admitted she was wrong in her judgment of him. At that moment, Adlet fell smiling, having finally proved his innocence. But Shamot woke him and asked him who killed the old woman. Adlet replied that it was likely the monster. Suddenly, he announced that the seventh of the braves was Mora. Everyone got angry immediately. The princess headed to Fremi and told her to protect Adlet and ordered Goldov not to let Mora escape. But Mora raised her voice and insisted she was not the imposter and demanded proof of her guilt. Nashatania replied that no proof was needed as there was no other suspect. But Hans intervened and said he agreed with Mora as there was no actual proof against her. He stood and wondered who was guilty if not Mora. Shamot interrupted and said the old woman was not the imposter. Then she brought out some wooden tablets she found. She explained that she destroyed the temple floor and took out a big box containing a sword and the tablets. Hans noticed that one of them matched the one inside the temple, and the sword was the same as the one on the altar. According to Hans, this meant that whoever activated the barrier was cautious and found a backup copy. The question now was why there were two tablets. Hans said the real problem lay in the second tab because it contained instructions to cancel the barrier and reactivate it in a surprising way. To reactivate it, one must remove the sword and the broken tablet and repeat the activation process, pour blood on the sword, chant the words, and finally destroy the tablet. Adlet asked if these things were real. Shamot confirmed to him they were the same as those found on the altar. Hans asked who broke the tablet. Shamot said she did not know. When she arrived, it was broken, and she demanded to know who did this. Adlet thought and understood that Nashatania was the one who broke it. Hans was surprised, but Fremi confirmed. Everyone was shocked, even Nashatania herself, who looked confused. Hans prepared to strike and admitted that in the beginning, he thought Goldov was the guilty one. Goldov immediately stood in front of the princess to protect her. Nashatania admitted that she indeed broke the tablet, but she said she never expected it would activate the barrier. She asked Adlet to speak, confirming he was not the seventh of the braves. But Adlet, remembering their journey together, stopped in his place in amazement. Then he understood that the trap needed a very specific condition, that the first brave to reach the temple would fall into it. And who did they send to the temple first? The princess. Her anger receded, and to everyone's amazement, she calmly admitted that she was the seventh of the braves. Golda fell to his knees in despair, and she approached him and apologized. She admitted she could have succeeded, but Adlet's actions ruined her plans. She also admitted one mistake. She knew about the backup activation version, but she did not know one of the tablets contained instructions to activate the barrier. She smiled and said she regretted not being able to kill any of them. She hoped to defeat at least two, but maybe she failed because she was not aggressive enough. When she looked back, she said she should have gotten close enough to kill Adlet herself or made Goldov do it. But everything was going so smoothly, so she did not think Adlet was difficult to deceive. She admitted she never imagined that he would discover her. She even looked at Hans and told him he was the toughest opponent she met. In the end, she had to admit that. Adlet was right. Without him, she likely would have won. Mora interrupted her and asked why she wanted to kill them, or if her real goal was to ally with the demon god. Nashatania said she should never have continued with this, and the best thing was to ask for their help from the start. Goldov asked if she was trying to do this and swore that he would follow her anywhere. But the princess said if he truly followed her orders without question, she would have told him the whole truth and mocked because he claimed to be loyal. Now Shamot asked why she tried to kill them. Nashatania replied that her goal was to achieve real peace, a world where humans and monsters live together. To do that, she needed to revive the demon god, which meant eliminating the braves. Now that she was exposed, she politely asked them to let her go to deal with the demon god when he woke up. She said she would not let him destroy the human world because she loved humans and monsters equally. Mora asked for a clearer explanation. Nashatania said she wanted reconciliation between humans and monsters. Although there would be risks, there would be peace. The price, however, was about 500,000 lives. The braves were stunned, not believing what they heard. Led by Adlet, they prepared to defeat her. But suddenly, she changed her form and disappeared amidst a strong smell. She said she was sorry she could not convince them. Adlet recognized this smell as an advanced monster technique where she blended with the surroundings. Nashatania's voice reached each brave individually. Hans used this to try to locate her and led the group after her. The chaos, Adlet fell unconscious. Mora ordered Fremi to take care of him. Fremi, worried, begged him to hang on a bit while being treated. Adlet said she looked kinder, like the first time he met her. He tried to confess his love, but Fremi told him she hated him because he made her want to live. The scene changed, and Adlet woke up in the temple under Mora's care. She apologized because it was not Fremi and explained she used mountain herbs full of vitality. She apologized again for not realizing from the start he was a real real hero. He told her it was all in the past and asked her to reconcile with the others. Hans said she already did that and informed him the barrier disappeared when Nashatania released it before leaving. Adlet went out and found Shamot asking where Golduf was. She pointed to him and said he was in a bad state and would not answer anything. Adlet felt sad he could not help now. Then he took a moment to enjoy the sun. Then Fremi came and told him she was sorry that his favorite turned out to be the 7th brave. He asked what she meant. She told him she did not want to talk to him now because she needed time, but before walking away, he told her he wanted to know 2 things. First, would she fight with the group instead of being alone? Without hesitation, Fremi said yes. Second, was it true that being with him made her want to live? Embarrassed, she admitted it was true. Adlet was very happy and told her to fight with him to defeat the demon god and live. In the next scene, the braves gathered, determined to complete their mission. Suddenly, a young woman appeared and apologized for arriving late. She recognized Adlet, greeted him warmly, and told him it had been a long time since she saw him. Fremi asked who she was. The new one introduced herself and said she was Rolonia, the saint of fresh blood. Mora asked why she was here. Rolonia said that although she did not see herself worthy of being a brave, she would try to help with all her effort. Her words surprised everyone more when she showed she also had the mark of the 6. At this moment, Delm III, the king of Woro, arrived with the royal guard. He said he came after hearing the phantom barrier was activated and was happy when he saw them safe. Then he told them that all monsters in the continent were heading to the forest, about 2,000. When they heard the number, Fremi suggested retreating. Rolonia agreed, but Chamot was against it, and Hans and Mora stood with her. Fremi looked at Rolonia and wondered if she had set a trap for them. Hans said maybe she expected them to retreat. Mora intervened and asked them to calm down and reassured them that Rolonia was not their enemy. Although the argument increased, Adlet interrupted them and asked why there were 7 braves instead of 6. Adlet said it did not matter and declared he was the strongest man in the world. Then he asked the king for a favor to activate the phantom barrier. The king said he had water and enough supplies to activate the barrier immediately. Adlet asked him to teach him in half an hour and keep it active until they defeated the demon god. Then he declared himself leader of the braves and said he was the only one whose credibility was guaranteed. Hans admitted that he still had some doubts, but said there was no better choice right now. Mora agreed to follow him for now, and the others finally accepted his leadership. In the final scene, the barrier was activated again, and the braves prepared to cross the howling land of demons. Adlet warned them and said that with your exit blocked, there was no turning back. And so, our story ends today. Before we end our story, do not forget to like, share, and comment on the video, because this is what encourages us to continue. And if you're new to our channel, subscribe and activate the bell button to receive everything new. See you all soon.